Hello, and welcome to Always Strikes Last.
I'm melting into the couch.
Matt is melting into the couch. He has been struggling with the itis that's been going around.
Yeah, some sort of sickness, probably nerve inflicted.
Itis or the osis.
He's been kind enough to join us on today's episode, so that's very nice and very gracious of you, Matt, for really taking one for the team.
That's my lot in life.
You enjoy the pox couch. Sink into it.
That's right.
Grandfather's rest.
I'm going to lead in. Corral me with your tales. What are we doing today?
What are we doing today? Well, I'm Miles, and Jack and Matt are my co-hosts. And today, kicking off, actually, some exciting news. People who listened to last episode will remember that we launched a Patreon, and we have Patreons. Patrons? Patreon?
Patrons? Patrons?
No, that's a liqueur. No, that's a liquor. A Patron.
Yeah.
We have
Patron.
Yeah. We have two Patron.
Two Patrons, Will Cochran and Sinister Grackle. So thank you guys so much for being early adopters to our fun little experiment here. And for their, several dollars a month? We've got a Discord set up. We are making it cool. All the cool people are there, and that's exciting.
Exactly. Second on that, we really appreciate you guys being an advanced scouting party here. Maybe I can make some sort of special icon eventually to designate such a thing. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. But, special icons for the early birds. I love that.
Exactly. Tell all your friends. Tell people don't play AOS.
There we go. In before it was cool. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed. So that's awesome. Yes, thank you guys. And for anybody else, we have a Patreon. Just search for Always Strikes Last on Patreon. That's how you find us. That's how I found us. I don't even have access to these accounts, so it's pretty exciting. I get to see what you see.
Yeah, no big deal. We're on the Google.
Yeah.
Yes. If you Google us, we appear.
Yeah. But so I got a topic for today, which is that last weekend, was it last weekend? God, only last weekend, went to the Irish GT, which is our local big event of the year. And I say big with some, sort of quotes around it because we had 24 players, right? Which is big for us.
It's solid. It's a solid little GT. It's good.
It's a solid little GT. And to paint you the picture, it's a pretty brutal place to have a GT, not in the sense that like Ireland is a super rugged and formidable place to be or anything like that. But mostly that like our local meta is rough because, so we had 24 people show up to this GT. 16 of them play or have played on national teams or are currently vying to be a member of a national team.
Oh man, that almost reminds me of some of Seattle.
So it's pretty rough.
I think it's delightful. The bottom third is the only one who's not going to Worlds.
And so, and I definitely feel bad for the folks in the bottom third because it is like there's like a sweet spot where you're playing good games at your level, and then you win too many of those, and you just hit somebody who has got a try hard list and really knows how to pilot it.
Question. If you have a hard list and you know how to pilot, is it a try hard and go hard, or what's the combination?
Exactly.
I think those are extreme, right? That would be an extreme list.
It's very extreme. Extreme.
Extreme with like if it's Slanesh, it's 3 X's.
Yeah.
But everything else is only 2 X's.
Yeah, that seems fair.
But yeah, no, and I want to at some point, maybe for a future episode, have a discussion on local metas and how we each play in our local meta. I think that's a thing that gets overlooked when we all get sucked into thinking about the global meta. And yet, I don't think I've ever played an event in the global meta. It's always something. Anyway, it's a discussion for a different time.
It's a fair thing, and definitely will park for future episodes. I'll say Patreon members and other Discord members, please vote if you want to hear that sooner rather than later.
Oh, I love that. You guys know how to let us know, presumably. I don't, but someone will. Someone will let us know.
Oracle ball typing. Thought pattern projected out there.
So the guy in the couch knows. The guy in the couch knows.
Yeah, there we go. So let's see. So I was playing Kharadron Overlords, which is a fun reprise for me. Hadn't played them in a good while, and our friend Sean Harrison brought them over on his last trip to our Fair Isle, and I've gotten them back up and running, and so it's been a fun time figuring out the new book, trying to figure out what the hell is going on with them, and I think I did pretty well. I ended up going 2 and 3. Which is obviously I was hoping for a little bit better result, but they were all good games, and I'll let you know how we'll give you the blow by blow.
That'll be fun. The hero's journey here, Miles. Like how it went, what worked, what didn't work, what you noticed, funny anecdotes. I myself am curious. So we had our practice game against you as you're preparing for that when I myself made it to your fair land.
Exactly. Yeah, so you know what we were doing. So my list was. And it's based off of, some internet lists that I had we did some market research on this. And there's sort of 2 archetypal KO lists going around right now. There is 9 or sort of 18 of Balloon Boys of whatever type you want. Usually a mix of Skywardens and Endrin Riggers, but I think it's really dealer's choice in a lot of ways. In 2 frigates. That's one build. And the other build, which is the one I took, because I already had it painted, that was the key deciding factor for this weekend, was 15 Thunderers in an Ironclad.
Which sounds much scarier to me. I feel like that build is scarier.
It's just fun to have an Ironclad out there anyway. It's cool to look at.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of fun. And then I had 2 gun haulers, one of which had 6 Endrin Riggers in it as sort of my mini assault boat that could go around and do stuff. Playing Barrack Urbaz, so I got the 4-up rally and everything, and pick one thing to be +1 to wound against. So that was cool.
Now, for those of us who haven't been going up against KO regularly, what is the 4-up rally from? It's an article or it's an amendment. It's one of those. So for your allegiance abilities, you get to pick an article, an amendment, and a footnote as part of the Kharadron code that you especially identify with. And Barrack Urbaz gives you 2 articles. I can't remember which ones are which off the top of my head. One of them's an always on. One of the categories is like an always on things. One of them is a once per turn thing, and one of the categories, the footnotes, is the once per game things. Nice.
So there is some method to the madness. So having an extra article, which is an always on thing, is an especially good one to have a second of. And because I had a big unit of Thunderers, that was a prime target for something that I might want to rally.
That makes sense, big, shooty, scary guys coming back in mass after they think they've decimated the unit. That's good usage in my book.
Yeah. And then the other fun thing about this event is that we elected to use the new battle scroll points and rules updates, even though it came out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and we decided to do it the Tuesday or Wednesday before the event. So
that is interesting. Was this after list cutoff? Do people allow to
So it
change
was
their list?
after list cutoff, so everybody had to go back and update their lists. Which thankfully there was only a handful. My list didn't change. KO got no updates, so I was nice.
What was it a thing though where they were allowed to change the general composition, or just the point? So if
you could change whatever you want. You had a chance to resubmit.
Okay. So no one got stuck with here's my Blizzard teleporting wizard concept. That's gone.
Exactly.
Like that. Okay.
Exactly. Everybody had a chance to. If they wanted to change factions, you could change factions. Whatever you wanted to do. Nice. A lot of people decided to just tweak their list and see how it went, which I think was fun information for all of us. Right.
That's fair.
So,
I'm totally derailing everything, Miles, but you've opened up a can of worms with this. Someone could have brought war pigs then. Did anybody bring
They
war
could
pigs?
have. No one brought war pigs. No one, at least, I got the text message from the store yesterday saying that my war pigs came in. So nobody had war pigs. No one was brave enough to bring Big Wah, as far as I could tell. I'm
interested in seeing how they do.
Oh yeah.
It's too bad they could have brought home the bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I'm excited. I had a potential COVID exposure earlier this week, so I am negative as of today. Very exciting. So it was, it's not, the days of the hardcore isolation anymore, but still trying to be polite and not give people communicable diseases if I can help it. You know what I mean?
It's a generally genteel way of living.
Yeah, I was going to say that's usually like the baseline for a social norm, right? Trying
is the so yeah. Have not been into the store to pick up all of my orc goodies.
That's fair. It's fair. But not for you anymore, Matt. You're sitting on the couch with grandfather, so you're probably going to wander around and breathe at people.
Hey, I got tested. I'm not on the COVID thing.
You got something weird and custom.
I got the hipster version of whatever it is.
COVID-18, the original.
Yeah, that's right. It's so you wouldn't really know about it, guys. It's okay.
All right. We were derailed Miles so much. Miles, you were telling us about
all right. So round one, played a guy named Anthony. He was playing Nagash and all the zombies. So this is an army that definitely got hit with the update, right? They took a big points hit and some rules tweaks. I can't remember exactly what happened. I think they just mostly took a points hit more than anything else.
I think that's right. The zombies had a big jump. Wasn't it like 100?
Yeah, it was
150?
It was a big jump for the zombies. Yeah. And so he had at least 60 zombies, corpse cart, vampire lord on foot, Nagash, and the necromancer, maybe? I think it was very thin on the ground.
That seems light. So
it might have been 80 zombies. 80 zombies.
It's Nagash. Just Nagash in general, right? That's how
Nagash is 900 points. Yeah. So. And Anthony is playing for a spot on Team Ireland, so obviously no slouch there. And it was an interesting battle. I think so he had sort of he used the 40 zombies as a castle, right, and put all his little buff pieces in the gash behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had the 220-man zombies come up from the grave, sort of to grab objectives in the middle, while his castle sort of slowly maneuvered up.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And we were playing Geomantic Pulse, so that's the one with 4 objectives in the middle. This is not an amazing one for KO. It's okay because we can always, we can sort of bounce around. We can be flexible in terms of which side we're going to jump to. So it's hard to get caught out of the pulse as much, but also the more objectives, the better is what I've learned about KO.
I mean, seems like a tricky one, given like, you don't know where the pulse is coming from, but the maneuverability helps with that. I'm not sure how I feel about low body count zombies in this mission, because it feels like they could get caught out by that too.
And I think that's what happened is they got caught out a little bit too. Nagash is still super cool. He's got a lot of scary spells. I did my best to stop the worst of them. It was mediocre in success. But and then I ended up winning this narrowly. I don't remember the exact points differential, but it wasn't a huge win. And yeah, basically I was able to shoot enough zombies. I killed the corpse cart. One turn I went for it and I got Nagash to 1. He healed back up to 7, but then I had a second turn where we were wrapping it up and I was like, look, this whole unit's going to shoot Nagash again. Can we just pull him? And so when we were like, we were close on time. So we said that he died. And I think that was true, but I didn't actually roll the dice for it. So, if anyone wants to call me on that.
So that brings up a question. Were they enforcing time over there?
Just clocks
dice down.
We do. So chess clocks are highly recommended. I don't think they were, but anybody. So because Anthony and I are playing, getting prepped for Six Nations, which is coming up in November. We were playing with a chess clock, and certainly he's got a horde army. It's a slow game for him.
Yeah.
No matter what. And so we weren't using the clock as an enforcement, but we definitely ran late on the time in terms of the round time.
Mm.
And so we were talking out the last turn. I was like, yeah. So Nagash is dead. I grab this point. And I get my grand strat. That's the victory. Right.
Yep.
But it was very close. I think I won by maybe 5 points.
Oh, that's a nice close game.
Yeah,
not bad.
Exactly. Very well played by Anthony. My second round was against Floody. So he played with us at Worlds last year, playing Hedonites, which was his Worlds army as well. So obviously, I'm like, oh great, this is gonna be rough. He had an interesting Glutos build. Only one unit of Bliss Barbs, a bunch of Seekers, big Seekers and little Seekers, right? The new fancier Seekers, and then 2 units of screening Seekers.
Do you mean the mortal ones or the demon ones?
The demon ones.
Those are still great.
Yeah, they're still great, but they're much smaller and they have fewer wounds, is what I noticed about them.
Yep.
And then Glutos and the Mask. And the Enrapturous. And the Enrapturous. And the Enrapturous did fuck all against me, which is not the point of her. But I think she tried to shoot me with a cannon shot and missed, which is, classic cannon shot.
Yeah, you're not really the target for her, Miles. You're the wrong demographic. She showed up to the wrong party,
which is fine. I think we're in a space with the GHB where there are so many people who are leaning into magic that everyone's got to lean into counter magic, and then occasionally you'll hit 2 counter magic armies against each other.
Yep. Yeah, and then you got to see if your list is just entirely an anti-meta list, or it's going to be able to stand on its own, right?
Exactly.
It's true. I know she can be fun though right now in this magical realm. So I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I think she worked really well for Floody over the course of the event. So
she's one of the best choices for Slaanesh right now. I would say even better than the Mirror.
Yeah. No, she's doing great. This was on every step you take is forward.
Day by day.
Yeah, exactly. All off. Again, 4 objectives, a little bit more spaced out. And these are the ones where if you charge, you count as 2 model. You count as an extra model. And if you retreat, you count as no models.
Yep.
For the purposes of objective grabbing. So that's a little bit of a trick for me. I think it's a trick for both of us because both of our armies inherently like to retreat onto an objective. Right. So that's a play that both of us use a lot that we can't do. Let's see what happened. I did pretty good. So I gave him turn 1. I deployed in the middle of nowhere. And he basically had a non-turn where he scored 5 points. He did some super easy, probably magical dominance, towed onto 2 objectives and called it a day for 5 points. And then I had to move out and start picking things off. I was getting good points. I was getting a solid 4 points a turn. Glutos comes in and kills a bunch of the Thunderers, but the Ironclad manages to get away. The Endrin Riggers are tied up fighting. They do a good job against the Bliss Barbs, but then get tied down with some Fiends. That's what it is. 6 Fiends.
You brought 6 Fiends.
6 Fiends in a squad of 6. And they were his 3rd level of punch. Right. So the little Seekers that are still the demon ones, they're the first wave. And then you have the Slick Blade Seekers?
Slick Blade
Seekers.
Those are the bigger ones. Right, with the 4 wounds. That and Glutos are the second wave, and then the Fiends come in as the 3rd wave. That seemed to be it was very good.
It's interesting. Do you know how many units of Seekers he had? Because that sounds like a very thin list. It was a thin list.
I looked at it on the on the app as I was preparing for this game, and I was like, this feels really thin on the ground. It was 2 of the little Seekers and 2 of the big Seekers.
Wow.
In squads of 5. And then
big Seekers is the Slick Blade Seekers and the Blissbarb Seekers. Okay.
Yeah, the Slick Blade Seekers. Okay. No Blissbarb Seekers. And then a unit of 11 Blissbarbs and some other stuff. I was able to use the mask really well. And it was just a game where he kept scoring 5 points and I kept scoring 4 points. I was able to get him to drop a battle tactic early on, where it was like a battle tactic where we had to get so much depravity. And then I basically just like made sure I never accepted the die that turn. And I made sure he didn't get it. Like I did a redeploy that got him from having his, what is it? That one unit, Exalted Killers or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah. Where he gets depravity for each wound caused.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ended up losing the game by 3 points. So it was very close. And I think it was a tough fight because he is just so fast that I can only jump away so many times,
Yeah.
It's really razor tight. And out of curiosity, was he using the grand strategy like to just have depravity at the end of the game, or was he doing?
He wanted to have 36 points, so he was allowing himself to potentially summon. Although against me, he never really did.
Yeah, that was going to be my question as well, Jack. It's like, okay, what was he doing so thin on the ground?
The other thing was
interesting.
He was Pretenders. Which I think is which I'm not a Slaanesh expert, but which is an unusual subfaction. And it got him D3 units could move D6 at the beginning of every battle round.
No, so that's not Pretenders. That's the one I like to run. That's Invaders.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, Floody, if you're listening, tell me what I got wrong. But anyway, what that functionally meant was a lot of his, like he had so much movement. I think Glutos made it like 27 inches in a turn.
Because he used the D6 buff move. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and a 3D6 charge spell.
Yeah, and probably a run and charge somewhere in there somehow.
That is fast for Glutos.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah.
Just those little ogre legs going like full on Flintstones.
Right. And then, board wide -1 to hit at a certain point, and then pockets of -2 to hit. So it's like -1 to hit that I can't do anything about, which is really rough on KO.
That's true. Because once you get the stack with Glutos, with that healthy 12-inch aura off of a pie plate,
right.
It's like, yeah, enjoy that. Your +1 means nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, don't even spend it. Just put the CP back in your pocket.
Yeah. You take the CP and invest it in feeling better because you're about to feel bad.
Exactly. So I'm 1-1. They've been both good games. And then round 3, I play Richie, who is also a Team Ireland member. And he's got his Slaves to Darkness, Oops All Varangard.
Nice. Richie's good people. Fun person.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it is 15 Varangard, Be'lakor, and a Slaves to Darkness Sorcerer Lord.
Nice. Very streamlined.
That's the list. Yeah.
Simplicity. I like it.
Yeah. So he's got 2 6s and a 3. It's Knights of the Empty Throne. I think they're all marked Khorne. Yeah. I don't think there's a whole lot. Like, there's no secrets in this list.
Not a deep hit and run strategy. Not a lot of screening and baiting.
I love it. It's a go big or go home list, and
exactly. And then we're playing Lines of Communication, which again is 3 objectives across the middle, which is the worst thing for me, especially with the Dawn of War style deployment. Fans of 5th Ed 40K will get that reference.
Oh yeah.
I will never remember if it's hot dog or hamburger, and then I will confuse which thing is hot dog or hamburger. Like, is it vertical or is it
I think this is the hot dog. I think this is hot dog deployment, right? Where it's 3 long stripes.
Yeah, but every time we've had a game, Miles, I've confused the hot dog versus hamburger whenever we talk about it, and I can never remember.
Visually, it's essentially the same thing. You just turn it this side, right? So
yeah. But what it means is that, he can deploy on the line, and there's nowhere for me to be that is like comfortably far enough away.
Yeah, you don't have a corner pocket to hang out in. That's for sure.
So I picked a corner. I put up my one little unit of Arcanauts as my screen and a boat, as sort of like screening the good boat, the Ironclad and the Endrin Riggers and the little gun hauler. And sure enough, he got into them turn 1. I lost them both. I did a little bit of damage back. Turn 2, I think I killed 4 Varangard out of that unit, but it wasn't really enough. I think at that point, and he's Bellacored my Ironclad. So the Ironclad is stuck in the corner. But fortunately, the guys in the Ironclad can still shoot out, and actually ended up rolling it so the Ironclad could still shoot in the shooting phase, which was great. So we did some good damage. And then I gave him the turn. And he was able, but after I tied up the Varangard with the Endrin Riggers to keep them from getting into the Ironclad.
Yep, makes sense. Balloon Boys sort of sacrificially offering themselves,
right? Okay. I gave him the turn. I'm way behind on primary at this point. I am still getting secondaries. He can't really get into me, which is awesome. So at this point, Bellacore is now a paperweight, which I love that for him.
That's my favorite version of Bellacore, really.
But he did what he came to do. That Ironclad was
absolutely.
The right target.
And now it's turn 3 or bottom of 2, right? By the time I get something going on. So I have to hop the Ironclad out of there, right? We're trying to bust holes and stuff. Can't really get onto an objective very well the way he's positioned to like get the right level of shooting on a good target that I want. So I'm not getting good primary points. And then during his turn, he makes a 17-inch charge with the 6 Vanguard on a 3d6 prayer. No, sorry. It wasn't a 17-inch. It was a hot 11 is what he got. He didn't get the 3d6 prayer spell off because they were out of position, but he got the hot 11 on dice, which he needed to get them in. And they were able to wrap the Ironclad with double fighting, and that was the end of it. So I lost that monumentally. I think I scored 6 points that game, and he got max or whatever. So that was brutal.
So the Vanguard do what they like to do, essentially.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
When that game, before that game started, what were you thinking going into it? Did you think that was kind of like, okay, this is probably going to be the one where I'm going to have the hardest time against this? Knowing Vanguard?
Knowing Vanguard and knowing that Richie is going to be hyper aggressive with them, and knowing that, he's going to stack a lot of buffs on them. They are going to be hard to chew through with a few spikes in some key places. I can lift units of Vanguard. Like a unit of 6 requires a lot of effort, and a lot of shots going in. And even a unit of 3 can really make my day terrible. So I knew it was going to be an uphill fight. And then seeing the mission, that is like making a bad day worse.
Yeah. I mean, like small number, somewhat centrally located, so you can kind of get to the ones you want. And
exactly. And obviously, Richie's great. Please, he played it very well, and it was a pleasure as always.
That's fun. It's interesting, Miles. So going into that game, when you were setting up and thinking about it, did it feel like a very different version of what you and I rolled up with?
It wasn't honestly that dissimilar in the sense that, I'm trying to, and this is what I found out about this particular KO list, which I was really trialing in this event, which was that it's a KO list that has to come in the second half of the game and score big points, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to spend the first 2 turns getting suboptimal scoring, hopefully 4 points a turn. It's tough on this objective on this mission to get 4 points a turn, just in general. Mm-hmm. But you're hopefully getting 4 points a turn for your first 2 turns, and then you're getting max scoring for the last 3 turns. That's the dream, anyway. And that means that you're almost never gonna blow out a game, right? Because you're there surgically picking things off and keeping the big threats at bay by movement shenanigans and killing key units and having key things to tie things up so they can't move. It's a very much, I think Mick called it a blue-red deck for the Magic players out there.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Right, like I am not doing any actual creature damage. I am just using direct damage spells and counter spells.
Yeah. Wait, what's that guild name? That Rizit or something like that?
I don't know. I'm not enough of a Magic card player but I know, right? What a terrible. This is like my sports analogies.
Yeah, it fell apart. It was like kicking the touchdown across that goal line.
Exactly. Yeah, you put the sports ball in the sports hoop,
and then you get sports points.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think they count them down. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Low score wins.
Well,
so that's day one. It's been 3 very good games, very tough games. Definitely a brain melter on my part. And then going into day 2, I play this guy named Joe. Joe's a very lovely guy. He's got this mostly Khorne Demons army. So he's got 2 big a Bloodthirster, a Scarbrand, a bunch of dogs, and then a bunch of dudes on whatever those juggernauts.
Oh yeah, juggernauts, cool.
Yeah,
I think they were skull crushers. Were the humans on juggernauts, as opposed to the blood crushers. So that was his list, and we're playing Nexus Collapse. So this is the one. This one, and I think this is such a tough mission. This is the one where if you're behind in points, you get to delete 2 objectives every turn.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, yeah. This one is. We could probably do a whole separate episode on the gotcha missions in this particular pack. Yeah. You have to play the mission specifically, or you lose.
No, exactly. And this was a case where Joe lost because of the mission. I won't sugarcoat it. He doesn't get to play as much as he wants to. He doesn't have the wealth of experience. I was definitely winning the fight portion of the battle. And at the same time, I think I won by like 3 points.
It was special.
Right? Through a combination of this mission is always going to be tight because you want to have that, like, I'm behind the first couple turns and then I'm ahead the last couple turns, both from KO and from the mission. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I'm guessing that you let him go to 5 points or whatever in the first turn. You were at 4. You then strategically.
Well, and that was it. So turn 1, he drops a battle tactic, and I'm going to give it to him as tactical geniusery, because that means I have to drop a battle tactic. Right? Right, to be below him, and because of KO, we have so much maneuverability, but to get in those sweet spots where I can unload onto a single target or a few targets and make sure I clear my little bubble with nothing close to me. There's not that many spots I can go, and so you're always looking for those like real sweet spots. So I got a Bloodthirster and Scarbrand closing in on me, right? So I actually had to land on an objective to be at the sweet spot to actually kill myself out of range, of whatever he does next turn. So I ended up inadvertently scoring an objective I didn't want to. And we end up tied. We end up tied going in. I think he wins the roll off and just deletes one objective. So anyway, it's this back and forth battle. I think I do end up underscoring him in the second round, and pulling off his back objectives. And then at that point, I am now under by 1 in a very close, low scoring battle, and I'm trying to make up points as fast as possible.
Nice. I'm seeing it.
Yeah, that's such an interesting mission. I think it's one of my favorites so far that I've played.
Yeah,
I love it. It's so different, but continue.
No, it's very good. One thing I learned from that battle was KO have a grand strat, which is that I have at least one boat still on the board, and there are no enemy behemoths on the board. And you know what doesn't count? Or enemy behemoths that fly, specifically enemy behemoths that fly. You know what doesn't count as an enemy behemoth is a bloodthirster, because it's a leader. It's not a behemoth anymore.
Oh, geez.
Oh, so like, you got him.
So like all the big things that I was previously worried about, like Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, not a behemoth. Alariel, not a behemoth. Archeon, not a behemoth. You know, don't actually have to worry about wiping those things to get my grand strat. Now, conversely, his grand strat was have no wizards on the board, which was a shoe-in because he's Khorne.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so we were going to be tied there. There was no like 6-point swing at the end there to achieve a bigger victory. Anyway, it was a very close battle, and honestly, a couple more battle tactics from Joe, and it would have been a whole different story. So really well played by him. Especially given the fact that, you know, I was doing that control deck thing where he was definitely frustrated at the fact that, like, yeah, you don't get to hit me, you know, or you get to hit me in a very suboptimal way, you know, that I've calculated as being okay, I guess.
And I can't get over how much I love that mission. Like, it rewards you. It rewards you for playing like beyond hyper aggressive. If somebody else is trying to play the game that you guys were playing.
Sure.
Like, if you have the ability like that, like the Slanesh list that you were talking about earlier with the invaders, to just capture everything early on, and they just start deleting, and you're like a combat heavy army, you just, fine, sure, I've got this half of the board. You can take 2, but I got more over here. Exactly. So stay right there. Go ahead.
And I do wonder if it's, especially for KO or any other army that's heavy movement, if you don't care about your home objectives, like I don't think there's a reason to go for the underscoring route. Tactic, you know, in retrospect. You know,
I think if you can control the board state enough to do that, yeah. But against a matchup where you are out hoarded, or you're not going to be able to do that because unless your things drop everywhere.
Unless you're facing a castle, like if you're facing a castle, you want to try and pull their objectives and make them spread out.
Yep.
But again, it's very matchup dependent. It depends on your army, depends on their army, depends on, like, it's such a hard thing to judge. It depends on what they want to do. You know, like you give them the first turn, they're going to have to play this like Sicilian poison cup mind game with you of
that is very specific. What?
Do I drink the poison, the cup in front of me, or do I drink the cup in front of you?
It is kind of like that. If both people are thinking along the same lines, right? It's like, okay, how many points can I afford to not score if I go first turn?
Exactly. Exactly. It's a very tricky problem. So that was round 4. Joe played great. Let's see, round 5. So going 2-2 into round 5, and I'm playing against Kieran with his Night Haunt. So this was, I know,
okay,
so very fun, right. spooky army,
and with the new points too, and everything.
And with the new points, I think he'd gotten an extra hero or something out of this.
Nice.
Remember, they were my MVP. I'm guessing they did okay.
They did pretty good. If anyone remembers what I said my overall score was at the beginning of the episode.
No, we didn't bury the lead too much on this one.
I'm living in a fog of disease and couches.
There we go. Well, it'll be a surprise for you then, Matt. So Kieran's got his Night Haunt. He has brought all black coaches. So it's 3 black coaches.
What?
A man in a chair. And then there's a bunch of ghosts that I don't understand what they are or what they do. which is
default state versus Nighthawk.
Probably to my detriment in this matchup in general. But in my defense, they all look the same.
Did they have swords or did they have scythes?
They were 10 guys with scythes.
Okay.
There was a man in a chair. There were 5 hex wraiths. I do know those guys.
Yep.
And then he had some like little hero who ended up being his general. I don't know what else he did other than he was his general. He was a little hero.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
that is the default state, though.
Yeah.
Like you look at the Nighthawk army, even when they're beautifully painted, sometimes in the tail, you're like, oh, okay, so these are the ones that are howling. Now, these are very distinct ones that are screeching.
Yeah.
These are distinct ones that are wailing. And of course, these ones have sheets on, and these ones have tarps on, and these ones just wear loose-fitting nightgowns. You can tell.
See, these skulls look like horses, and these skulls look like humans, and those don't even have skulls. And that's your differentiation.
I don't think it's unfair, though, because we're just living the experience of any kind of Mortal Realms person on the ground dealing with these things in real life. Like, they don't know what these are, what the distinction is. It's all a boogie, floaty, bad thing.
I remember reading some
wave of
I remember reading some Sigmar book where I think it was, I couldn't get through it, and I apologize to the author. I'm sorry I didn't get through this. I think it was the Neferata book where it's the self-titled Neferata book, and she's cooking up some scheme. Cool, I'm on board. Neferata, neat, Yeah. And then they go over. There's this Khorne army that's doing Khorne stuff.
Yep.
And the main guy was talking about, he used to be just an exalted death dealer, but now he's a mighty lord of Khorne. And I was like, no one in a Khorne army would use those titles.
I think they'd go a little bit more, instead of like exalted death dealer, it'd be more like exalted skull death blood dealer, right? I feel like they would have to add more skull and blood.
But like those titles that we give them in the game, those are what the Stormcast call them.
Yeah.
It's never how they were born. It's not like the name their mother gave them to. Even to get
exactly right.
Imagine being like a rural Axian village, and the neighbor's son is like Bronze Ball Butcher Axe. You watch that kid.
But anyway,
I imagine there is one Khorne army out there that really takes that seriously, and they all have waxed up mustaches and are fully yes, I am the exalted death dealer. Yes. Come here and I shall kill you.
My disbelief was unsuspended at that moment, and I couldn't finish the book.
Tattered completely. Yeah.
But anyway, Kieran had his oops all black coaches, and this was Spring the Trap, which is again 3 in the middle, and this has an even tighter deployment. So already I hate this mission. I hate this mission so much from a KO perspective. I don't hate it. It's a fine mission overall, but from what I'm looking for as the KO player going into a mission, this is the worst thing that could possibly exist.
I get it.
I think he's hiding his feelings on this one.
It's a little bit. No. Seriously though, I after playing an all KO all Dragon Ogre list on that mission, just fitting stuff in to that deployment zone.
It's a very tight deployment zone.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I secretly think the reason that they give you the outflanks is to keep you from overfilling your deployment zone.
Yeah. Because I remember at one of the Hawkwim tournaments, we had a Zinj player that couldn't fit everything in that same width of deployment for one of the older missions, which I can't remember the name of, but it was pretty much the same deployment.
Yeah, it was. I remember the one. I remember the one you're talking about.
But anyways, I digress.
So I give him turn 1. He throws some. He puts a black coach in front of me. Says, "Come at me, bro." He tries a charge, or I don't think he tries a charge. I think he just sort of positions to sort of screen me out of the middle. I go turn 2. I lift the black coach sitting right in front of me, and am able to get a model onto the middle objective, and I grab a side objective. So I'm getting 5 points.
Nice.
At that point, he gives me the turn again. Because he's kind of out of position. He's got both other black coaches off to the sides, and his main guys are all way in the back. So he gives me the turn again. I jump in. I lift another black coach, and I start to do some damage to the horsies. And then he starts the crackback, right? So he moves the stuff into the middle objective. He's got a black coach that is loaded up now, so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And
nice.
Yep. And then I don't think he gets the double turn. I get the turn, and I am going for, because his hero is right in the middle. The guy on the throne. I don't know the guy's name.
Craven something.
Yeah, he seems really good from what I can tell. This is such an expert.
It is the great retelling. Once again, this is going back to our theme of what are they?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, he seems really good, and I want him dead. And during his turn, he had charged him out of range of the spirit hosts.
Oh, okay. No more Blade of Wounds. Nice.
Exactly. So I'm like, that guy is dead, and I want his dogs dead. I want his family dead. I want his dogs dead.
He's already dead.
You're shooting him. He's like, hey, I'm dead.
Exactly. So I get I move the boat in. The Thunderers get out. I've been realizing at this point that a fun move is, so it costs a CP to move the boat and to get the guys out, but the guys get a functional 7-inch move out of the boat. So like, right, they get out of the boat wholly within 3, and then they get to move 4, and then the boat can just move after them to still be in the same position that would have happened if I had moved the boat and gotten them out, so I can save a CP. So I've been having too much fun with this tactic. Anyway, so I got the guys. We're unloading on stuff. We're just trying to do some ping damage. I think we lift most of the unit. The hex rates are tied up with Endrin riggers. It is really rough with the fact that none of my rend matters for anything against these guys.
Oh, yeah.
But, we're getting some chip damage. He's got a 4-up ward or something nasty. So we're getting down. He's got 1 wound left. So I charge the Ironclad in, over top of the Thunderers, charge the Ironclad in. And then he manages to get back into position. Like I whiff with the Ironclad, or whiff with the Admiral. He manages to get back into the position, but I end up killing him anyway.
So you killed Kurdos.
So he couldn't pass off enough wounds. But now I'm sitting with my Ironclad right in the middle, within charge range of everything, and the Thunderers on the other side, the side I don't necessarily want them on. At which point he takes the turn. He gets a bunch of units ready to charge. He pulls the hex rates over somehow, and they're going to charge. I don't know if they have a retreat and fight, or I don't know how he does
everything
exactly.
does. I think.
Yeah, the entire army can retreat. So there we go. And charge.
So he pulls those over, and this is the moment where I lost the game. I redeployed the Thunderers into the boat.
Gotcha.
And if I had just left them there, the boat would have still died, and they would have still been sitting there. Whereas what happened is the boat died, and all but like 3 of them got out, died with it.
Yep.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a really good play, because when someone gets just within 9 of the Thunderers, you can put them into the boat, and now that's like a 12-inch charge. But if they're just within 3, you leave the Thunderers where they are. Right? Yep. Because they're going to make a 6-inch charge, and you don't want them making a 6-inch charge. Right? They're going to charge you. Just shut up and sit there and shoot them.
Yeah, and just wrapping the boat. I love it. It's the best feeling in the world when you wrap a KO boat.
Oh,
the player tries to put them down and goes through every scenario of where do I stick all these beautiful models.
It's so funny about it though, like kind of apropos of you being on your Nurgle couch, but also the metaphor is like you're wrapping the KO bow, this nice warm blanket comprised of all these ghostly sheets. It is like wrapping in a blanket.
It really is.
And I remember having
blanket.
I remember having an argument with Ken. Heated discussion anyway with Ken about like, taking prudency shoots, and he's like, well, you should just never let your boat get wrapped. That's the thing. I'm just like, Ken, everybody knows the trick about wrapping the boat. Literally everybody sees KO and is like, how do I wrap the boat? That's the first thing that goes through every single person's mind. Everyone knows
the
about
only
this trick.
thing. That's the only thing. That's all anybody wants to do.
Yeah.
So my boat got wrapped.
Just drink the KO player tears.
Not surprising when they could fly and their ghosties and they were everywhere.
Exactly. and now I had a pretty commanding lead on the points up until this moment. And so we have 2 more turns of scrapping it out. And what it comes down to is that a black coach is a behemoth that can fly. So I don't get my grand strat, and that was the I think I lost by a point. It was very well played by Kieran. He absolutely snatched victory from the claws of defeat, and he did a great job.
That's kind of awesome.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, hats off to him. It sounds like a real fun game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just fun to see 3 black coaches because they are hilarious.
Yeah, I had a pretty fun game once a year and a half or 2 years ago against 4 black coaches at a GT, and that was real interesting.
They are just complete havoc. Like, you never know what's going to happen with them.
And yeah, it's like you're like, okay, so they've got, what is it? It's 12 wounds or something like that with a 4-up in like unmodifiable save and then a 5-up ward. It's like this is a lot of damage I need to put in this thing, guys, to put a big dent in this.
Yeah, and you can't really ignore it because there's various versions. It still can juice up and get kind of scary.
No, exactly, right? It can. What is it? It's only like 6 or 7 models that it needs to die within its bubble to get juiced up, and then it's like, okay, big mortal wound attack coming out of here.
Yeah,
It also gets a 4-up ward.
If it's 5 or 6, 5 or 6 dice. Yeah. I have all these models. I should actually play my Night Hunter.
There you go. Play your models, Matt. Play your models.
I think about the black coach as the model which is different from the other ones.
Yeah. Fair enough. I can
black
see
coach is the one you're like, oh yeah, that's
that one. Okay, that one I can easily recognize.
There's those things, and then there's that one. Or Lady O. Everybody knows Lady O. Everybody's had their dream ruined by Lady O at least once.
That's true. She has a little attendance. It stands out.
Exactly.
So your hero's journey ends. You had some scraps, 2, 3.
2 and 3 for the weekend. All very good games. Great players. Had a great time. Won best sportsmanship, so that's exciting. People liked me, so that was always, that's always the dream.
Yeah, that's absolutely the win you want. That's the word. Exactly. Like, at least that wasn't like a curmudgeon on the table.
Also, won best of the 2 and 3s. So that's nice. I don't know why we had a prize for that, but we did.
That's a rarefied bracket, sir.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you at the beginning of this, what were you hoping for or expecting, do you think, with the amount of time that you had put into the KO list pre-tournament and going from Theory Hammered to any practice games on it?
Sure. I mean, I was definitely hoping for 3 and 2. A 4 and 1 would be great, but also knowing that like I'm going into a shark pit, And the other thing that I've come to realize about KO, or at least the way I've been playing KO, is that they are not an army that smashes in the same way that we saw them sort of last year, early this year, really, being that like, here's 30 Thunderers in your face, have a good day,
Yeah, they're not as dominant on the sweeping of the deck.
Exactly. There. Like at least the way I've been playing it, you'll get it done. If everything goes well, you'll do 4 points, 4 points, 5, 5, 5, and you'll get your grand strat. And but that's against a skilled player who is also has got their own they're also scoring well. That's going to be a narrow victory, right? So you're looking at 6 or 7 points differential is the sort of dream. And that's a hard place to start out with.
Yeah.
Like that's like, unless something like, so again, this game against Joe, I don't think he knew what to do against KO, and like fair. It's definitely a weird one to wrap your head around if you've never seen it before. And so he I don't want to give him a hard time, but he made a lot of, all the wrong classic moves where he's like, I'm going to spread out. It's like, cool, please spread out. Please make it easier for me to pick you off. I'm going to just like run my big stuff at you. Cool. Please do that. Please bring them over to me so I can shoot them, and which are all good instincts, if you're just kind of making it up as you go and you don't know what this army is going to do. But even with that, still was a very narrow victory, on the points side.
And I mean, Night Hunt have an interesting way of kind of like countering things in ways you don't expect to, right?
Yeah.
So like all your rend is not going to matter. All the damage you have to like fully commit to your shooting to pull a large unit off a table. Mm-hmm. Almost overcommit, I think. And that's not just shooting, but even combat, right? You have to be able to kill that unit twice in order to pull it from a table if it's Night Hunt.
Right, exactly.
That's sort of what it feels like, right? I mean, the situation of the Night Hunt or maybe some of the other matchups combined with the variability in the missions, which are really good for KO, or cluster of small objectives not good for KO. I mean, you kind of have like a casino slot machine pool every time you roll up to the table, and you can really have that narrow margin scalpel plan get kind of tossed.
I do want to point out that there are a number of 6 objective missions in this GHB. There's at least 3 of them I can think of off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. We only played 1 mission that had more than 4 objectives.
Interesting.
Yeah. So maybe not even the best mission.
So I'm blaming you, Nathan, for picking these missions. This is all your fault.
You heard it from the man himself.
Exactly. No, it's all. Obviously, if you're going to play an army that's going for a 5-0, you have to be able to play all the missions, and that's part of the deal, right? So even the hard ones.
So what would you change out of this, having learned all that?
Well, I definitely want to trial the other build, right? The other build, which is the 18 balloon boys, 18 bubble boys, and 2 frigates. That one, I think, you can't really compare shooting only output versus shooting plus combat output, because there's so many other variables but like, I think the total output of that army is a lot more damage if you can make it happen. So I definitely want to trial that. Whereas this one has like one big thing, and it's going to blow a hole in my opponent's board and hopefully ride that wave, So I'm interested in trialing that. The other thing too, I think, is there's like, there is an experience thing where it's like, okay, like I said, the moment of this is when you don't pile the guys into the boat, and you just let them sit there, even though that's a really fun little trick that catches a lot of people out, is the piling guys into the boat, knowing when to do that, when to not do that. It's definitely very interesting. But yeah, I think KO are in a very good place. Sort of in general, they're a strong army. They have strong battle tactics. They have strong grand strats. They're good at a lot of missions that other people are not necessarily good at, right? All of those big, high number objective missions, right? They're going to be good at ice fields. They're going to be good at Nexus collapse. They're going to be good at meltwater. And it's figuring out how to deal with those small number of objective missions in a better way.
Yeah. That makes sense. I bet you will have some positive results from trying out the alternative build, though, with the small objective missions, because you get the combat, you get the third phase to do stuff in.
That's true.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think one Death Star is the easiest list to counter, I think, in a lot of metas. Right?
Sure. Yeah, it's much less susceptible to Bellicor, for example,
or Blizzard, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, that's true. Didn't get blizzarded the whole time. What's the deal? So everybody's telling me Blizzard is the new thing, and I didn't get Blizzarded once. I did get Hand of Dusted once.
I still
lost
love
my
Blizzard.
Admiral.
So good. Oh, nice. And the gosh strikes again.
Yeah, exactly.
I have not had it go off on me yet. Or no, I think that's a lie. I've had it go off on me twice, but just horrible rolls from the players. So I've been like completely underwhelmed by it.
Well, it's, what is it, like the Sex Panther of Warhammer moves? Like
exactly
100% of the time, 50% of the
time. Exactly. It's illegal in 12 countries.
Yeah.
And I think coming away from the battle scroll, I think we're going to see less zombie spam. I think it's still got some teeth there. But stuff that was like Nagash and some zombies, or like some big points investment and zombies as like sort of the backup, that is a lot thinner on the ground. And you need, like, zombies have a critical mass, not only of the zombies, but also the number of buff pieces and redundant buff pieces you need to make them really sing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
true.
You're in a spot where like Nagash and one corpse cart and one vampire and one necromancer, like that's not enough buff pieces.
It definitely feels like you could overwhelm their ability to bring that stuff back to recursion to get the points they need. Whereas like before, it's a lot more bodies.
Exactly. And a lot more little heroes, like a lot more sources of power that you had to run around and deal with. Legion of Blood, still probably very good. No one was playing that this weekend, but I think they're still probably very good. Who else? OBR. OBR seems like they still have some teeth. I didn't get to play him, but there was an OBR player, and he did pretty well. Everyone was coming away like, wow, OBR still pretty good. After they had a more targeted nerf to the recursion on Immortus Guard and Necropolis Stalkers.
Which was very much needed, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it was gross.
I think it tracks, though. I mean, just the other stuff is still great. It wasn't really too terrible.
Yeah.
So it's
and hopefully we'll start seeing a little bit more kind of like mixed arms, right? That would be interesting when I'm not looking at an OBR list and it's or when I'm looking at an OBR list and it's not all Immortus Guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough.
I still think they're very good. I mean, they didn't go up in points, so like as long as you can play around the fact that they're harder to bring back, and maybe don't triple dip into them, they're still very good.
Yeah. But
they've got a place.
Yeah, they're not an unkillable block, I don't think, anymore. Because before it was just like,
like you did what? Excuse me. Now there are three of them coming back. What are we doing?
Okay, cool. I'm gonna. Let me pack up my army
guys.
now.
You must have messed up the rule.
Yeah. I think we looked at it, and it would be a real investment of effort to bring more than one of them back in a turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is exactly what it needs, right?
Yeah. And not to mention a lot of 3-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was you need at least 4 3-ups in a row, and not to mention 4 copies of this ability to put on them, which you could do. That's still doable.
And in a clutch moment where it saves the game, I can totally see it. But as a normal move, a normal thing for your rank and file guard who are elite warriors. Maybe not so much, right? So
exactly.
I'm glad to see that.
I still think No Myriad is the best, like, of the subfactions. I don't see that changing though.
Well, right now, I mean, that's because of the ever-present threats of the Blizzard or whatever.
Sure.
It's great. And anytime in the spells can do some wonky stuff to you, ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, none of the other subfactions do anything, so it doesn't matter, right? You have a subfaction that gives you a once per turn charge in the enemy charge phase. You have a subfaction that gives you something to do with horses. You have subfaction 5-up explodes for mortals when you die. That feels like planning for failure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're, I think each of them have like their own kind of builds that they're intending, right? Like the crematorians are actually my favorite style because all you're just asking is just get as many blocks of Mortec Guard, put a bunch of derp turtles up there. Derp turtles being the what are they called?
The harvesters.
Yeah, the harvesters. Yeah. And then just bring them back slowly over time, right? Yeah. And there you go. And now you're just hey, I don't have any mortal wounds anywhere else. Just come and hit me. I want you exactly in combat with me with exploding 6s to hit. So,
so you just have them sitting there as like Mr. Exploding Bomb Bones bricks, and they're
exactly. That one does seem probably the best of the remaining ones. I'm trying to think. Petrifex Elite. So this was confusing to me. I was looking at it. Petrifex Elite affects Hekatos units and Gothizzar Harvesters. Hekatos units are not Mortec and horses.
Yeah.
Even though both
the elites, right?
Even though both of them have a unit champion called a Hekatos.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was.
You can see where I'd be confused, right?
There's a keyword salad going on here.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's murky. It's murky. I think there's some play in the other sub factions. I know that I've seen some of the others do some cool stuff. I love the idea of countercharging.
Totally.
Being a way to stop someone from just doing very precisely what they want to do.
But to have a pure counter to like Tzeentch and Seraphon and the occasional Blizzard, like just in your back pocket, like, even if you don't get a ton out of it in most other matchups, it just feels so good. It's hefty goodness. It's hefty goodness without a doubt.
Well, it's really interesting because I was building that. I shared a list in the Discord that I've been building, and it's been rattling around my brain for a while. And I was building it specifically to say how many battle tactics can we get while playing the army that I really want to play, all Vanguard Stormcast with no crazy long shooting, right?
Sure.
And looking at the battle tactics that are available, not only through that book, and the GHB, there aren't that many that are wizard dependent. And I'm wondering why we're seeing so much heavy wizardry for the amount of primal miscasts that I've seen go off, myself included. Like
everybody wants to be the one who throws the 46 mortal wounds at somebody.
Yeah.
And it's such a rush, though. I mean, I'm addicted to it.
It's that heady days of mortal wounds everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see because like you get the bonuses that you can use for being Antorian Locuses. The book is made to kind of like say, hey, use your wizards. Come on. We have a ton of extra battle mages in inventory. Just buy them, please. And like the battle tactics themselves, you can probably supplement even with like, hell, you could do an Auric Worklands list. And if you're actually focusing on building a list around the battle tactics, and this is not like Iron Jaws.
Auric Worklands have fantastic battle tactics.
What?
Yeah.
Well, not if you play Orcs on Porks.
Well, I don't know about Orcs on Porks, but like if you look at it from a Big WA standpoint, 4 guaranteed battle tactics on every mission without doing anything.
Yeah, Big WA most definitely. And it's so deceptive too, because like Big WA lists don't make any sense to me. Every time I've tried to build one, I'm like, how does this work? None of this makes any sense.
Yeah, no, Bone Splitter's got the shaft on the whole battle tactics thing for sure. But even to your point, they're not bad at the book ones either.
Yeah, they're not. And so like the more I'm looking at it, it's more like, why is everybody playing into like an extra cast when it's like, okay, I've now got save dice for dispelling stuff when I need it.
I mean,
and that's the only way I'm looking at it now, which is really interesting because it's like you have like even Croak now is dispellable.
Yeah.
So like it's interesting that we're like I don't see that much magic around where I'm playing, to be honest. So just
this is the local meta we've been talking about.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's clearly what I'm doing with the KO is I'm just sitting there and hoping to, have 2 dispels.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm taking the heroic action to give someone a dispel if I think I need it. And then I have the navigator and that's it. I'm just praying on, like, I actually want more primal dice because typically what I find happens is someone will have a spell they really want, and I wasn't going to stop that spell no matter what. So they're going to roll all their primal dice to try and get it to go off. And that's cool. And then I'll get to stop their other 3 casts or their other 2 casts.
Were you rocking any like Arcane Tome or anything?
Nothing
at all.
Just 1 navigator and that's it.
Interesting. I've been starting to throw Arcane Tome and Master of Magic on a lot of lists just to be like, okay, cool. Here's the battle tactic right away.
Now you have a good wizard.
That's done, right? Even if it's not even like good spells, it's just like, okay, I've got a battle tactic. First turn, done.
Nailed it. Backboard this guy, cast a spell.
Yeah.
I've been really liking Master of Magic in this current book because
so good.
It just makes things reliable, especially if you're doing like the Kabbalist thing like I have been, where you have these 3d6 casts, which are super risky without it, And it gives you a little bit of an insurance policy if your dream is to not roll the ones and then add a primal dice to get somewhere.
Yeah, for those who may be new or may not have kept up with the original rules and just come into the new rules, Master of Magic allows you to re-roll a cast once per turn. Or 1 cast per turn. Mm-hmm. So it's super helpful for getting that first battle tactic if you know nobody's going to be in range to dispel, especially if they make you go first. Like at this point, like if you know you're going to go first, that should be your battle tactic, right?
Yeah. I think knowing how to deploy for your battle tactics and having a plan on every single map about which battle tactics you're going to attempt throughout the course of the battle and which ones you're deploying for is the best thing you can do for yourself in terms of how to play this game better.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's much better than what I do, which is look at the battle tactics in my opponent's turn, roll the dice, so I'm making sure I'm keeping up with them, have my battle tactic picked and figured out, and everything goes according to plan with all the dice rolling and yada yada yada, and then forget and have to do it all over when it's my turn.
Yeah. And I'm not saying to have it all picked, but like recognizing like, okay, this is a mission where it's super far to get to the enemies, to get out of my territory. So intimidate the invaders, probably not going to happen,
Yeah.
Maybe don't go for that. Or this is a corner deployment, so let's not go for surround and destroy or whatever it's called. Right? Because it's hard to get to three edges. I could still do that, but it's not going to be a turn 1 type thing. Anyway, because like a lot of them are achievable on almost every mission. It's just there's no battle tactic except for maybe the magical dominance that's like this one turn 1 every time.
That's very true. I mean, but they are there if you set up for them. You have a plan, which kind of accommodates a little bit of the opponent's got to do. But if you misdeploy, you often ice yourself out from any number of them because they're so positional.
And I do think every army should be able to get 4 to 5 battle tactics every game consistently. Yep. And if you're not doing that, figure out how to do that because that'll improve your game right there. Like that is like the easiest thing you can work on to make your game better.
Exactly. Line up 5 gems, clear the board.
Exactly.
That's right. Line up 5.
Oh my.
Well, all right. I think we got to a good place.
I think I'm about to fall and die in the couch. So
okay. Before the couch mimic consumes you, we'll have to sign off.
That's true. I mean, we don't want to be around for the audio to capture the vestiges of wisdom being imparted by it at the end there.
Yeah, it's just going to be a lot of
stay a while and listen.